Hey Noville fans, and welcome to another journey with us as we explore Ivy Green. This is the birthplace of Helen Keller here in Tuscumbia, Alabama. So come with us and let's figure out a little bit about Helen Keller in case some of you may not know about her. Let's go check it out. All right, here we go. All right, we have made it to Ivy Green. This is the birthplace of Helen Keller, and we're going to go tour her house in the grounds. So we're pretty excited. Look how excited Aunt Pat is. Oh, she's dancing for you. Maybe I should shower you with some dollar bills for your dances.
Yep.
You think so? Man, you're just like my shirt. You're a part-time hooker.
I saw that part-time, but I didn't know what. Couldn't read that.
Your mom wants you to record the magnolia trees.
Okay. Well, as you can see on the property, there's some pretty good-sized magnolia trees here. And that seems to be a big southern thing. Is that a southern thing, Mom? To have a lot of magnolia trees on your area?
I used to have one that died, though.
What kind of tree is that right there? That big one? I don't know, but it looks like fun to climb. I'd climb it.
There's an old-timey oak.
An old-timey oak? How old-timey are we talking?
100 so years old.
Woo! Man, you good.
What it said there.
Y'all like two little hobbits. Look at you.
Aren't we sweet?
I don't know.
Well, the good thing is, on days like today, there's not going to be a whole lot of other people around.
So here at Ivy Green, the home of Helen Keller, you'll find that they got a lot of memorial tributes for her. There's a nice fountain that was established here by the Lions Club of Alabama, here for the city, probably in Tuscumbia. But it's a nice fountain. It's got her bust on there and memorialize her for her contributions here, I guess, to the local area. And then as you make your way past that, you'll find that there's a walkway with a lot of donors, I believe, to help support the house in the local area here. And you'll see marble statues of the great scene at the well where she was finally understanding some of the things that she was being taught. And so it's a pretty pivotal moment, I believe, in her life. And also, if you ever seen the movie Helen Keller, you'll see that that was a big moment where she was understanding water as it was being signed to her from the teacher Ann Sullivan. So this is a statue erected to them also by the Lions Club. So amongst the statues, you will also find a nice little tribute from Knights of the Blind, where it has a recording of Helen Keller there making a speech. And also a Maori tribe from New Zealand has established a little gate, so to speak, to kind of recognize her. So the Lions Club has really done a lot to support all the works around here. So congrats to them, Lions Club International, if you guys are members or not. And then, of course, you get to the main gate where you can be able to purchase tickets to go inside the house, which we will do, and show you the insides. So we're at the back side of the house here. You'll find what they've labeled as the cook's bedroom and the kitchen here. Here you see some old grindstones.
Here's the original water pump.
Oh, is that the original water pump?
I bet.
Oh, this is what it says here. At this well, Ann Sullivan Macy revealed the mysteries of language of the 7-year-old Helen Keller by spelling the word water into her hand as water flowed over the other hand. So this is the scene.
Oh, see how she taught her.
Rather dramatic.
This is the
Huh. So, Pat, you can come be Patty Duke, and Mom, you can be you can be Ann Sullivan, and you can be teaching her how to spell water.
I'm not supposed to touch it. I'm not supposed to touch it.
It says not to touch.
No, I just figured I shouldn't.
Yeah, you should. You'll break it,
Yeah, it would be bad.
or at least I will. So we got the kitchen that's labeled. As you can see, it seems to be a pretty decent looking, oh, look at all those cast iron pans and stuff there. The butter churner. Oh, that's awesome. Now we go into the cook's bedroom. What
That old rope bed.
what does a cook's bedroom look like? Oh, nothing too exciting there, I guess. But yeah, there's the cook's bedroom. Yeah, that looks like a little storage building there. So it looks like a storage place here. Guessing the cellar. Oh look, that made paper airplanes back then. Just in case you guys wanted to see old paper airplanes, there it is. I wonder if Helen Keller made those. But it seems like to be a cellar, storage cellar. Consider that, or it could be a prison for ants who are not nice to you. And there we go, touching things you're not supposed to. That's why we can't have nice things, because you want to touch stuff and break things. Shame on you.
Oh wait.
And I filmed you touching things too, so I'm gonna report you.
Okay.
Shame on you.
Helen Keller, police.
Yeah. They want to sign language you to death when you get to prison. So you better start learning how to sign, because if you want some water, you learn how to spell it.
Oh, you can't go in here.
I think those bars are to keep people inside. What you think?
Probably.
I can sing the
So
song?
did she stay in here?
I don't know.
Guest house? I can't-
Is what this is, a guest house somewhat?
Did she stay
There's
in
a
the guest-
bassinet in there.
I think she did, didn't she?
Did she? I don't know. I feel like a peeping Tim. Peeping in whatever house this is. Oh, it's got bars on here. I don't know if you guys can be able to see anything on the inside of that or not, but okay, well, we're gonna go take a look at the main house and we'll show you what that looks like here in a jiffy.
To Ivy Green. The home was built in 1820, so this year 205 years old. It was the second home built in Tuscumbia. David and Mary Keller, Helen's grandparents, came here from Virginia. They bought 640 acres. Today we only have 10, but in 1820 this looked like a big farm. They had barns, gardens, orchards, farm animals. It stayed in the Keller family for decades, so we're fortunate to have a lot that's original or family pieces, so forth. Notice the nails in the floor. They were made by the blacksmith in 1820. They said it took 4 minutes to make one nail. So nails were very valuable. They would burn and tear down buildings just to get the nails out. They were such a big deal. When the Kellers came, English ivy was growing everywhere, so they named their home Ivy Green. They raised a big family here, 10 children. Helen's father was one of those. His name was Arthur Keller. He became a captain in the Confederate Army. Here in town, he was an attorney, he was editor of the local paper, and he was a farmer. His first wife, Sarah, died after 10 years of marriage, and he was left with their 2 sons, James and Simpson. So a year later, he married Kate Adams from Memphis, Tennessee. He and Kate had 3 children. Helen was their first. Kate's family descended from John Adams and John Quincy Adams. She was a Memphis belle. Her father was a brigadier general. When he married Kate, he furnished the little cottage that's right next door and called it their bridal suite. And so when you look in the cottage, you'll see where Helen was born. June the 27th, 1880. Perfectly healthy. At 19 months old, she ran a very high fever, and that's what left her completely deaf, completely blind. More modern doctors have said that was probably scarlet fever, but they called it brain fever in that time. There wasn't anything anyone could do, and in the following years, Helen's behavior became very difficult to deal with. There was a lot of tantrums, crying, breaking things. She could be mischievous, but 24/7 keep an eye on Helen. And then her sister was born. This is Mildred. Helen was 6 years old when this new baby came and Helen's world changed. She became very jealous. One day she turned the cradle over with the baby in it. And that shocked and scared the family, and they said, we have got to find help for Helen somewhere. They learned of an eye doctor in Baltimore, Maryland, doing things no one had done. Got on the train, went to see him. He said, there's nothing I can do. Take her to see Alexander Graham Bell. The inventor of the telephone was a teacher of the deaf. He lived in Canada, but he often came to Washington, D.C. And that's where Helen met him when she was 6 years old. They were friends for life. He's the one that told her family she doesn't need a doctor, she needs a teacher. He said, go home and write a letter to Perkins School for the Blind and make an offer of what you could pay a teacher to come to your home in Alabama. Perkins is in Massachusetts, so a long way from here. Ann Sullivan had just graduated from Perkins. She had no family, no money, poor vision. She was worried about her future. So when the letter came from the Kellers, they said, Annie, there's an opportunity for you, but you're gonna be a teacher. It'll be for a blind and deaf child. It will be in Tuscumbia, Alabama, but you'll get paid $25 a month, free room and board. So she got on the train, came here, met Helen March of 1887. Annie was 20 and Helen was 6. When you go upstairs in a minute, the first room is what we call the boys' room. Those two half-brothers were still in the home. In the middle, there's a trunk room with some original clothing. The room on the left is the room Helen and Annie shared, but that's the room Helen locked the teacher up in. Very first day she came, she wrote in her book that she was not happy about this person unpacking in her room. And she said, I felt the key that was left in the door, so I turned it and pulled it out and hid it under a big piece of furniture. Then Helen just went about her day. So when the family realized that the new teacher was locked up, no one could find the key, and they had to bring a tall ladder from the barn and put up to the window. So when you look in that room, that window is the window Annie climbed out of on the first day of her first job here. So that was a good welcome. Well, we're going to start with this room. I'll talk behind everyone. Just step in up to the gate. The clothes you see are original. They're mostly Helen's, sometimes were her mother's. On that old bed, that crazy quilt was made by Helen Keller. She was Captain Keller's sister, Helen's aunt. She spent her life in this home. All those stitches have names. That was a way to show off your handiwork to do a crazy quilt like that. Over that time period would have been oil lamps, and some of these were converted to electricity. On the round table to your left, there's a picture of Helen, age 7, with one of her many pet dogs. She loved dogs. She had all varieties, but she always had dogs in her life. On the left wall over the red sofa, those are her great-great-great-grandparents, Alexander Spotswood and his wife, Anne. He was an early colonial governor in Virginia. A lot of things in the state of Virginia are named after him. There's even a Spotsylvania County. On that back left wall, there is a secretary desk. It folds down to make a writing surface. They said Captain Keller often sat there to work, and some of the books in the case were his. To the right of the fireplace, there's a screen that looks like a shield. Ladies in the family did the needlework. When they would sit by the fire to stay warm, they would use the screen to block the heat from their face. The story is that the ladies had beeswax in their makeup to cover pox scars, and the men would wax up their handlebar mustaches, and you didn't want to melt as you sat by the fire. The expressions "save face" and "mind your own beeswax," did you ever say that? That's where it came from. The portrait on the back right wall was painted by a traveling artist. He came through one summer needing a place to stay, and he did the painting in return. She's 15. The organ was donated. A local man restored it. That's an 1871 Jenny Lynn pump organ. So it does play. If any of you know how to play it, we'll let you play it. You may know how. Above it in the shadow box frame, there's a head wreath. We know it's at least 170.
That's what I wanted to know what that was.
Yeah, and that was made of hand-spun woolen thread, which was then wound around tiny wires to make all those shapes. So very intricate. Somebody really put a head wreath, or they were. So she and Annie went to the Horace Mann School for the Deaf in Boston. They both had to learn how to do the vibration technique. She would literally feel her teacher's tongue as it moved for a sound. Then she would press against the side of the teacher's nose, her mouth, and her throat, picking up vibrations and facial changes. And somehow Helen was smart enough to put all that together. She would utter the sound she felt, and when she said it right, they'd tell her. Then she'd have to practice it over and over and over and over. She said it was excruciatingly painful, but she learned to talk. She had a tremendous vocabulary. She gave talks all over the United States and in many different countries without ever hearing a word she said. Wouldn't that be strange? People can see you and hear you. You can't see yourself or hear yourself, but you can still have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
So they went to a lot of schools together. They went to Perkins School for the Blind, another school for the deaf in New York, Wright Humason School to improve her speech, and then she said Cambridge School for Girls, high school level. It was just a regular high school in Boston, but Annie was always with her. And then she said, now I want to go to college. So she was the first deaf-blind in the world to have a college degree. Radcliffe College was the sister school to Harvard. They were boy-girl in that time period. A very difficult school, a very prestigious school. They didn't think she should come at all. They said that's impossible. But she graduated with honor in 4 years from Radcliffe College. Annie had to sit beside her and spell every lecture into her hands, read assignments into her hands, very few Braille textbooks. Bring in an outside person to give her the test so it didn't look like they were cheating. And Helen said that made it much more difficult for her. But so just an incredible accomplishment. But that spent their whole lives together. This is Helen, that's the teacher, Annie. The secretary they hired was named Polly Thompson. Handwriting is original. We have several things with Helen's writing. She used a little wooden writing board device that laid on top of the paper, almost like, I think of it as a roll of rulers, and that way she could feel where to put the letters and it kept it straight. Annie came here when she was 20, died at age 70, right at 50 years with Helen. But she died in 1936, a long time before Helen. But Polly Thompson, the secretary, had learned to be a companion, so she just stepped into that role and took over. She was with Helen a total of 46 years herself, almost as long as Annie. Helen died 26 days before her 88th birthday. She died June 1st, 1968. Her birthday is the 27th. All three ladies are entombed in the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. Annie was the very first female allowed to be entombed there, thanks to Helen. She wanted her to be honored all by herself, so she pushed for that. And she was, it was prearranged that they would all be together, which that was very unusual. You didn't prearrange who would be there, but they did that for Helen and Polly too, to all be together. When Helen died, her funeral service was held in the National Cathedral. They said over 1,200 people were in attendance that day. The table in the dining room is not original. They would have had a larger table. The china is original, matching pieces in the cabinet to the right. The back right piece where the fruit platter is called the Jackson Press. It held the linens and silverware. The print over the mantle is an original Audubon dated 1834. That's a rare print with Charleston in the background. The silver tea service has been passed through many generations, so old Keller silver. To your left in the corner is a little piece of furniture with a keyhole. That's a sugar chest. They would get a shipment of hard, brown, unrefined sugar twice a year. So sugar was a big deal. They'd meet the boat, get the sugar, bring it home, and lock it up.
Yeah, they locked it in.
Kate Keller had the key around her neck or waist. She was in charge of the sugar. That's the one that Helen and Annie had the big fight in. If you've seen the movie or the play Miracle Worker, you remember that. When Annie came, she was shocked that Helen had never learned to sit and eat at the table. She was almost like a little animal wandering around the room. She would smell the food. put her hand in your plate, take what she wanted off your plate, eat with two hands, eat noisily. The family had just accepted it or gotten used to it, or I think they were so tired they just whatever, you know. But Annie thought it was just awful. So soon after Annie came, they were having breakfast, and when all that began, Annie blocked her. She wouldn't let her take food off her plate. And Helen persisted, and Annie slapped the top of her hand. And they started the big fight. It shocked Helen, it shocked the family. They questioned her, but she stood up to the family, told them Helen was ruling the household. And long story short, she said, I would like to begin Helen's education if you'll all get up and leave the dining room. So you can imagine how happy everybody was, especially Captain Keller. He was having a hard time with this little 20-year-old that he was paying, telling him what to do. But Kate said, give her a chance, and they left, and he shut the two doors. And when I say the fight began, I literally mean slap, hit, kick, wrestle, chase, turn over furniture, food everywhere, drinks spilled. And it went on all morning because neither would give in until finally she had Helen tired enough. She could hold her on the chair, make her put the food to her mouth with a spoon and drink from the cup and lay it back on the table or place it on the table, and had her napkin folded on her lap. So she had learned in one day what they had not taught her in 6 years. Of course, the room was a wreck. We say, I bet it was a late lunch that day. Sister that made the crazy quilt, she was Helen's aunt. So this room is labeled. I'm going to point out a few little highlights though, and then you can look all you want. The statue is exactly like the one in Washington, D.C. in the United States Capitol. She's in the visitor center. She's there where everybody can touch her because Helen learned to touch. That's the only statue in the Capitol they allow you to touch, but that one you can. It's the only one of a child too. When the artist made this, it was actually supposed to be in our Capitol in Montgomery, but they felt it belonged here, and there was a push to bring it here, and we've been thrilled to have it ever since. You'll see Helen's handwriting over here when she was only 8 years old. Be sure and look at that. That's just a little over a year after Annie came. That's how quickly she learned. That's her little christening gown. All the games are Braille. Helen played every game that anyone played. The pictures are like 1, 2, 3, 4. If you want to see who she's with, look on the card. That's Alexander Graham Bell with Helen. I love that picture. They were friends for life. And then Helen reading her Bible, but see all those huge books stacked up on both sides? That's just one Bible. That's how much room the old hand punched Braille took. They said this case used to be filled with her books. And we have a Braille book here you can touch to see how that feels to read in Braille. Helen, in her lifetime, wrote 12 books. They were published in many different languages, so you'll notice a lot of different languages. She wrote essays and poetry. She met every president from Grover Cleveland to John F. Kennedy. She worked for over 40 years for the American Foundation for the Blind, and that's how she became world famous. They sent her all over the world, months longs of travel. She traveled till she was 80. A long, long time travel. So in here you'll see a little bit about all of that. The mold that's on that white stand, that white mold on the stand, I should have said. This is the mold that was used to make this column. This is the St. Joseph Chapel. It's in the lower level of the National Cathedral in Washington. So if you ever get a chance to tour this, it's beautiful. But you can even say, can I go down and see where Helen Keller and Nan Sullivan are entombed? Polly's also there. All three are there. On the door, there's a plaque that says Helen Keller and Nan Sullivan, but Polly's name is in the book of people entombed. In 1980, Helen and Annie were featured on a postage stamp. Above the door, there's a blown-up copy of the Alabama quarter with her name in Braille. We just learned that there's a quarter that's been made with Louis Braille's picture on it and his name in Braille. Up until then, we thought that was the only coin with Braille on it, but we've just learned there's a Louis Braille coin now. When y'all are through in the house, right out here, you can see the original kitchen and cook's bedroom.
All right, so here we have Ann and Helen's bedroom, where they would have had their little night time here in the second level of the house. So what y'all think about that?
It's very interesting.
Yeah? Think you learned something?
Oh, we didn't ask her what the little, I'm gonna go ask her what that
Yeah, what that little
building
place.
is out there.
She said in her speech.
What?
She said in her speech that they went out there and she kept her out there.
Not the house, the
little,
Oh.
The
I
prison.
think it's
The prison.
Well, there we have it for Helen Keller's house. I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I had making it, and maybe learned a little bit of a thing or two. I know I did, even though that she's a part of our American history when we go to school. It was good to learn a little bit more about Helen Keller and her life and how much of an impact it was for the world. So from Ivy Green, thank you guys for joining. See ya. Toodles.